11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
Welcome, everybody, to our daily gun show. And we're a little bit late if you're listening to this one live. I'm not going to blame Gizzard for this one, but yeah, Gizzard's show was last night. I decided, well, we'll just lay down for a little while. And here we are, like 5 hours later. So that happened, and we're technically about half an hour after midnight, but instead of doing this show at 9 p.m., we're doing it at midnight. The true time the show's supposed to happen, so an authentic show tonight. Won't get as many people joining for sure. Give me some feedback on the audio if you would. Got some people joining on the X, so they won't comment. They never do. Let's see. We're going to talk about what happened this week that's focused on the Second Amendment. We'll talk about some gun stuff, and then we'll talk about some interview shows that I watch each week. Let's see. I guess I did not fill out the beginning part here, and we're not going to blame Gizzard for that, but I fell asleep and I forgot to do that part, so we'll just open up an email over here, which is where I get most of that information from, and we'll take a quick look at the news of the week through that email. We put this information out each week live as a show because I value the interactive nature of the internet, and sometimes people join in and participate in the show. That's always a lot of fun. That's why I started doing it live 1,800 episodes ago with Bob from Canada, and well, we still do it live. But in addition to doing this show live, we take the audio and we turn it into a podcast, so there's that. But we also take the description, the stuff that we'll be reading and talking through here, and we put that description on a couple of different places. We put it on our Patreon blog. Our Patreons are the capitalists that support what we do financially. We appreciate their support, and they get everything in the blog form over there. It's also a pretty big platform, so we put this information over there to help spread the word. We have a newsletter. Honestly, that one doesn't go out very often, so we have it there, but when we have more time again, we'll do the newsletter. And if you're missing the newsletter, let us know. Give us some feedback. We respond to feedback. We do it on the Substack. That's what we're looking at here. We also put some of the information over on Instagram. They're limited, of course. And then the podcast. That podcast will go out to all the different podcast platforms. So we can say, hey, on iHeartRadio, on iTunes, on Stitcher, on, what's the other big one? Spotify. So wherever it is you might be listening to the podcast, welcome. Please give us some feedback next time you're checking out your podcast stream. Give it a like or a heart or a thumbs up or whatever, even a comment to all the podcasts that you appreciate. It really does help us out a lot. That's the least often used method of feedback, so it's the most useful method of feedback, if that makes sense. So that's all the places that we put this, and that's sort of the strategy, to gather this information each week so that we have a running archive of it, but also to push this information around to as many places as possible. We'll be talking about things like the Massachusetts rally, and that's not getting enough attention. We want that to be as populated as possible. All right, so I start off the show each week after that introduction with the news of the week, and I almost always get this news of the week from the NSSF government regulations newsletter that goes out on Fridays. I'm opening it up here into a window so we can take a look at it. The first thing they're talking about is Chicago's nation leading a homicide streak and the Democratic gun controlled dreams. So the irony, or the what's the word, of putting the Democratic Convention in Chicago, where they ignore most of the gun deaths. Of course, they use the numbers from those gun deaths, but they ignore the political situation that creates the violence in Chicago. And you could have all kinds of opinions on that, but since they never address any of it, it is very open for discussion. But of course, they're going to blame law-abiding gun owners for all the problems that happen in the country, and they just lump all the problems together. So they're not going to, of course, talk about that. They won't do any of that reflection at a what do you call it, the convention. But there's all kinds of news coming from that convention if you want to check it out. Oh, let's see, the price fixing. I don't know why that's coming up here. I guess they're saying if she's talking about price fixing, what's she going to do to guns? Then we have Minnesota's age-based carry ban struck down. So in Minnesota, very anti-gun state, because of the governor. It's hard to say, but the governor is the guy running for vice president with Harris, and of course his stuff's under magnifying glass. But Minnesota has been teetering. It's definitely had some issues, some things in the news, and this idea that they banned people from 18 to 21 years old from obtaining concealed carry permits for some reason. They thought that was cool. That went to the Supreme Court, which court did it go to? It went to the Federal Court of Appeals, and it was deemed unconstitutional. So unless someone takes that to the Supreme Court to be pushed, which if they did, that'd be great, but they're not going to, because they know they're going to lose in the Supreme Court as well. It looks like that will effectively shoot down the idea of 18 to 21-year-old people not being adults, unless they're being drafted or brought into the military, in which case they're certainly adults, right? Let's see. NSSF congratulates the USA shooting team on historic performance at the Paris Olympics. So I don't know if I've seen a rundown on the number of medals, but it says the U.S. shooting team on its extraordinary achievements, where the team members earned impressive 5 medals. Along with this remarkable feat, saw many other firsts for USA shooting, marking a significant chapter in the history of the shooting sports. Let's see. The president of NSSF said that Vincent Hancock cemented his place among the greatest Olympians in history, and joined the likes of Michael Phelps, Carl Lewis, and somebody else in an elite group of athletes who've won 4 medals in their respective events. Didn't I can't think of her name. Didn't she win 5 of them? Maybe they mean all one type of medal. Let's see, we've got Caitlin from Georgia, made history in Paris by becoming the first woman to ever qualify for an Olympic pistol final. So plenty of women have won gold in their shooting sports, but I guess she's the first with pistol. That's cool. Let's see, lead ammunition ban still. Oh, can you hear that? We're getting a little bit of thunder this evening. We're not blaming this on Gizzard. Sure, if I would have done this show at the normal time, there wouldn't be thunder happening in the background. It wouldn't be scaring people. But let's just go on and do the show. No blames here. No need to cast blame right now. Lead ammunition ban still lacks scientific backing. No matter how loudly anti-hunting activists shout it, how often it's erroneously repeated in a sympathetic media calls to ban traditional lead-based ammunition, still lacks scientific data to support such flawed policies. I think that's a weak leg to stand on. NSSF has been proactive in lots of other things, and the shooting industry has been proactive on lots of things. Let's move from lead. Come on. We were stuck with lead, the stuff they came up with the 1800s. even before that, I suppose. This is all we can come up with. And to suggest that it's not an issue is silly. So I don't need to blame anything, but at the same time, we're throwing lead all over the place. So we could do something else. We could throw metal all over the place and it would simply rust and nobody cares about that. We could throw ceramic BBs all over the place and literally no one could ever care about that. So I think I don't agree with everything NSSF does, and this seems like a silly, unnecessary, and losing position to anchor our shit to. So NSSF, they do a lot of good stuff, but they also are not perfect. All right, then we get to the federal news. NSSF files an amicus opposing ATF frame and receiver final rule. Seriously, trying to keep up with all the lawsuits is one thing. Trying to keep up with all the bad laws is a whole other thing. Keeping up with amicus briefs is not in my thing. So 27 states file an amicus in the Vanderstock. Good to hear, but again, we can't be talking about every amicus brief. Come on, we're going to be talking about every piece of paperwork that gets handled in the government. So U.S. Representatives Ifa Stank, is that how I say that? Introduce gun control and gun roster. This is in New York, H.R. 9388. They want a handgun roster. Isn't that nice? So we could get mad about this, or we could raise a bunch of money, or we could just get upset about it, or we could start to hate people over this, or we could freaking educate, right? They're only using ignorance. They're completely dependent on ignorance for this kind of stuff. They're doing things that have been defeated over and over again. Instead of getting upset when a dog pees on the carpet, you teach the dog not to pee on the carpet, right? And it's not the carpet's fault. So all the people that are in the middle, it's not their fault. Is it really the dog's fault? Nah. It's the action, and it's the action of these not Republicans, but representatives who are just looking for fame and fortune. Let's take that away from them instead of getting upset on cue when they want us to be upset. So is something like this a detriment to the Second Amendment, or is something like this a play in a larger game that they're playing against us? So if we're going to get upset and react exactly how they anticipate every time they do something, then they're playing the game. They own the game, and they're telling us when to act. We can take this away from them, take these moves off the table for them, and stop this whole game from happening without awareness and education. Those people in the middle that don't understand, that think a handgun roster sounds like a good idea, let's educate. And you don't do that by just getting up and shouting at the other side. So plenty of examples out there of people that are actually making headway, changing minds and moving the Overton window. This guy here is a player in a bigger game, and how you react to this one is up to you. In 2024, this isn't the first time we've played this shit, and it's not the first time it's happened in front of everybody. So again, if we just keep a memory and attention span so short that we're going to allow this kind of stuff to bother us every time it happens, then that's honestly on us. That's our own failures then. But we shouldn't be letting each other fail. We should be able to say, hey, I remember this happening at least 3 times in my experience as a gun owner, so let's not get worried about the 4th or 5th time that it comes up. What's-her-face says they want ATF ammo vending machine investigation. So this lady who gets paid to piss off people and become the thing that gets exploited by people who aren't even trying to change the position or change the Overton window, says that she sent a bunch of letters. She sent a letter to the ATF and to Stephen Bittelberg-Backer, demanding the regulatory agency investigate ammunition vending machines. So again, red herring, an election year, she's trying to spin people off on dumb shit. I don't know why NSSF's even talking about this. Majority of Americans reject the SCOTUS shakeup proposal. This is adjacent to guns. I'd rather talk to somebody who knows what's going on with this. And again, getting mad because they want to suggest something dumb is different than organizing an awareness campaign to battle the ability for them to do something dumb, right? Next up, Senator Mendez. opponent of the firearms industry, resigns in disgrace. So this dingus from New Jersey, vocal opponent of the firearms industry, who supported the firearms and ammunition export restrictions, resigned in disgrace following a guilty verdict in a bribery scandal. Okay, well, it's always good to take a shot at your enemies, but not here. So I'll let other political people worry about counting that coup. I could care less. At least another person off the table for our purposes. So then we have U.S. Representative somewhere or another celebrates National Shooting Sports Month. August is National Shooting Sports Month. NSSF wants everybody to remember that, but they don't really mention it very often. So, that's us as a community. We either appreciate a month that's dedicated to what we got going on, or we ignore it completely, and we choose to ignore it completely. So it is good to see that a couple of people out there are talking about it, but there's more that could be done, I suspect. All right, next we're taking a look at the state news. They say this guy is running for, was he running for governor of Montana? Yeah. What's his face? Busey is making a bid at the Democrat candidate challenge in Montana governor. So I guess he declined to release his tax returns, and he probably doesn't want people to know how much he's making from gun control groups, Bloomberg, and authoring the Second Amendment bashing book. All right, so good luck running for governor of Montana as a anti-gun. That'd be a massive warning light if enough Californians have moved to Montana to change that ball or change that outcome. Let's see. Final results from the Maine tragedy: false missed opportunities, not lack of gun control. Well, So it looks like there's something that happened in Maine a while back. They're blaming the Army and the Sheriff's Office. Let's not blame everybody. Let's just understand that things are going to happen once in a while and try to create some education about this, but I'm not going to get behind this. Let's blame everybody for the problem. You know who the problem is? The murderer. That's the problem. Study: big cat hunting ban would cost Colorado over $60 million. So on November 5th, Coloradans will vote on an Initiative 91, which would ban the regulated hunting of lions, lynxes, and bobcats. Let's see. The ballot initiative also makes something, let's see. They're saying it would cost Colorado $61 million in lost economic revenue. It seems like a lot of money. $61 million worth of people go to Colorado to kill big cats. That doesn't make sense. So maybe that's possible. I thought they were going to say it's going to cost $60 million to go kill the cats anyway, because you can't just leave a bunch of cats, take out the mountains. You know what we'd have on the mountains is like 4 cats. So I'm all for predators, but this seems like a goofy story here. Let's see, Colorado ranchers, same thing. Lethal answers needed to ballot box. So now they're worried about their wolves. Let's see, wolves are preying on livestock. Non-lethal methods have proven ineffective since April 2nd. 24 cattle, oh no, have been killed by wolves. Oh no, how many have been made into food? How many hundreds of thousands? So 24 can go suck it. I really don't care. So people that are scared of wolves are scared of their life. They're scared of the world. Mass group pushes ballot initiatives to rebuke new gun control law. So how do they justify putting Massachusetts under these 2 stupid things in Colorado that are about hunting predators, real predators like animals, or this stupid thing about Maine, or this stupid thing about the gun control guy who's running for governor of Montana? How does Montana rank against Massachusetts in any situation? I mean, come on. And they put this as last. This is laughable. So again, I'm all about NSSF. I like them, but at the same time, man, they're not making all the best decisions out there. So Massachusetts is getting a massive shaft right now, and really all we're doing is exploiting the situation to get people to get upset instead of mobilizing people to change the issue. They have a ballot initiative that's about to go crazy in Massachusetts. They had a rally today. No, today. They will have one today, the 24th of August. And nobody's talking about any of the stuff that can happen proactively, the stuff that can be done. But usually there's just exploiting this. So this is an election year and there's money to be made. There's not money to be made in solving things or calming fires or changing the situation. There's money to be made in exploiting the situation, and that means making a big light, holding your pearls, and getting all upset every time a news issue or a news article is published, and not questioning if they should react, but simply reacting. And yeah, Massachusetts is under massive issue right now, and we could be doing something about this as a country, which would end this from ever happening again. Instead, it's an afterthought at the end of a list of stupid other things that are nowhere near as important. And that's just an indication where it's at. How many people that you know pay attention to guns are talking about Massachusetts? If they're not, then they're not. They're just not paying attention to what's really happening out there. We just had a massive event that brought people in from around the country. How often was Massachusetts brought up there? Zero, because they only want to talk about the good shit. They want to exploit the bad shit, but they don't want to change the situation. Imagine if everybody that showed up at that event went home with actionable plans to take action for Massachusetts. But maybe nobody was affiliated with Massachusetts that was there, so it was just they were all ignorant that even Massachusetts was an issue. Maybe they just didn't even know. Maybe. All right, well, gun control, gun policy critical consideration to 2024 vote. Seriously, I don't think we need to know that stupid article. What hunters need to know about Vice President Harris's red meat restriction ruse? No, thank you. How's that even guns? I guess because of hunting. Range USA donates $40,000 to NSSF's Protect Liberty PAC. So, okay. I guess they're saying thanks for the 40 grand and then just some extra stuff. So I usually filter a lot of that stuff out, but that's what I filter out when it all gets put into bullet points over here. Pretty important week, but only important because of all the stuff we left on the table. It's frustrating. All right, so now we'll get into the stuff that happened this week that was focused on our Second Amendment, and I usually put this sort of in general order of the most 2A thing down to the least important stuff. That's why our stuff's at the end. And one of the most important projects that happens, one of the most important things, it's efforts that's being done to change the future, to change the way that things are done, and that's the way that we're perceived and the way that we talk, is Brooke Cheney doing her Suicide Prevention Saturday. Now, this isn't like a lecture on suicide every week. In fact, it's really just a get-together with a focus on this concept and just little nibbles, little hints, little, something you can use, maybe something you've heard of before, maybe something you can't. But resources, an opportunity to focus on this aspect of our situation. So as gun owners, we are constantly under attack because this perception that our property is so violent and that we must have lost touch with reality because we want to possess something that is so incredibly dangerous and violent. And that perception has not always been there. It is not the way it is. It's an engineered situation. And we talk about the Overton window. All of that is an engineered situation, and it's crux. It's weighing, it's depending on a couple of things. One is a misunderstanding of the situation. They depend on most of the population not understanding what's going on, and that we can change. And then they use the number of suicide deaths willy-nilly, indiscriminately for their advantage. Whenever they need it, they include the suicide deaths. Whenever they want to ignore it, they ignore suicides. Suicides are not murders. Suicides are not accidents. Suicides are a separate thing that are a social issue and that can and have been addressed successfully. However, people who are exploiting the situation and not trying to solve the situation are never going to go near this topic. So Brooke is doing important work by having a show each Saturday that focuses on this concept because it's such an important aspect of our existence as gun owners. But most people are going to tune it out because it sounds boring, or it sounds like icky, or it's work, or it's something I have to do. It's not just I sit here and absorb a bunch of entertainments that's designed to tickle my whims, but instead it's something that's creating an awareness of mental health, a ability to have more effective conversations about the topic, and an ability to be comfortable about a topic that most people, since they never talk about it, feel not at ease talking about. So Brooke does an amazing project here. It's a couple of minutes. It's like a half an hour or less usually on Saturday evenings. I know it'd be a lot to ask to have you show up and be part of the conversation on a regular basis, but if you want to promote anything, if you want to do something that you can feel is actually effective for the situation, then promote Brooke's project. Whenever you put the word suicide into the internet cannot interpret that. It doesn't bother. There's no incentive for the internet to interpret that correctly. Instead, it interprets it it puts it in the same pile as all the negative suicide talk that might be out there. And her show is effectively, fighting an uphill battle, so to speak, against the mechanisms and the logarithms out there. So anything you can do to help her show out is appreciated. And it's literally probably the most effective thing you could be doing. To promote somebody who's just exploiting the situation is useless. You're literally just, a drip in a giant useless ocean. Anything you can do to help Brooke's projects are literally some of the most effective stuff being done out there. You heard the thunder. I don't know if you can hear the rain, but I need to go close some doors. I think I might need to go close a window because it is raining pretty hard. I'll be right back. So, let's play a commercial for everybody. And there's no way I'll get back before this commercial's over, but you'll get a commercial about a thing that is 40 seconds long, thanks to Foster.
Sir, why are you in Barry's fishing net? He ran right into it. Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty apes. First off, that is incredibly rude. You ran straight into Barry's fishing net. It's ruined. How is Barry gonna fish now? I'm just trying to find some patches and some stickers. Well, all you have to do is go to gearwebsites.com and you can find 2A related stickers and patches. And even if you need web consulting, technology consulting, 3D printing, anything like that, gearwebsites.com. Now please get out of the net. I'm sorry, jerk.
Actually, I did get back. So, yeah, it's raining pretty good out there. We've had the fourth rainiest rainy season here in Arizona. So at least last time I saw something about it, fourth most wet year we've had on record. It's pretty good. All right, so Walk the Talk America was pretty active this week. They are an organization at the national level that's focusing on mental health awareness and the intersection with the gun community in a positive way by both educating the professionals about the gun community and gun ownership and how some of their mixed messaging has been detrimental to the change that the physicians have sought, as well as the exploitation that the politicians use in this intersection. And again, illuminating some of that exploitation is going to help from both the gun owners and the medical side. So Walk the Talk America is probably 2 or 3 people, or 2 to 6 people, it's hard to say, affiliated physicians and people, but they do these live broadcasts on a semi-regular basis. So this week they had 3 of them. This Rachel Moss was a lawyer here in Arizona talking about her experience. Then they had the guy from NSSF, the president of NSSF, Bartozzi. And then third one, they started off the week with a short one, just with Mike Sodini coming in and talking about what's been going on with him and the Walk the Talk America. They have other ones scheduled already, so they're definitely back on the pace. Speaking of being back, we have Forge of Freedom did another episode talking about, is reading a short piece, an essay by this Murray guy, Rothbard, about war, peace, and the state. And as a libertarian, I'd think, at least from a libertarian point of view, like the not big state point of view, an interesting piece about international relations and stuff. Let's see, next, moving on. Oh, and then also I wanted to say thanks to Alex from Forge of Freedom. We had an interview a year ago. Was it a year ago? And in that interview, he was on the show, on our Monday show a while back, and he took that interview and chopped it up into shorts and posted it on his channel. That was pretty cool. It looks like we got some comments over here. Oh, DJ's out there. Welcome. Oh, dang, I missed a bunch of comments. Did all these comments just happen, or did this happen a long time ago? Oh, I didn't even know we were getting comments. Thanks for dropping all those links, DJ. And then Saint is out there. Gold medal is silver coated with 6 grams of metal. Oh, neat. That makes sense, though. Nothing will wake up the pug. He's awake, but he's just fucking mellow the whole time. He's not really paying attention to the show. Let's see. And is anybody else unapologetically armed? I should do my show in the middle of the night. Welcome. Doing awesome work in Missouri. Barbecue, throwing $2 at me. Thank you. I'll pay for the shipping to send out these knives to you. Then he said, Midget is out there with carrot cake. Welcome. 24 carat at 3,000, right? 24 cattle at 3,500 a head is a huge loss for farmers. Oh, that's what you're saying. If it was a young dairy cow, the loss would, of course, be far greater. I hear you, but when they're dropping tens of thousands, if not millions of cattle in Colorado, 24 ain't fucking shit. It might be to the individuals who lost them cows, but honestly, you're never going to win a cow battle with me because I don't care about the single cows. There's 1,000 cows in a hamburger, so what is 24 cows? Yeah, I mean, they cost a lot, but they have thousands of fucking cows. So at 3,000 to 5,000 a head times 1,000, they got millions of dollars worth of cows. The couple of thousand they lose from, or the 100,000 or the million that they lose is nothing. They're a massive industry. So I'm not going to get sad that cattle are dying. I mean, they get way too much money. Let's see. It was great to get 3 of the WTTAs in a week. I agree. Actually, it was too many, but I'd rather have too many than not any, right? But anyway, thanks everybody for the comments and for the $2, even though we disagree on the cow thing. Let's see. Then Judge Joe Brown. So this was pretty interesting. I'd heard of Judge Joe Brown before, but I had no idea he was so adamantly 2A. So this is definitely worth checking out if you haven't heard of Judge Joe Brown before, or if you have, then you're going to dig this one. So basically, Maj just has him on and lets him talk, and he definitely knows how to talk. He's like from a TV show or something. I just thought he was some judge, but he's actually been involved in some interesting things over the years. Let's see. So because of all that crazy stuff that's happening in Massachusetts, Toby is essentially going live constantly because I don't know how many gun owners there are in Massachusetts. I've heard like 300,000. I've heard 500,000, which it sounds like a lot, but there's 7 million gun owners in California, and how effective have they been? When they release all their data to the world, it's possible to release all those gun owners in one file. Those gun owners can resist some things, but it's their Supreme Court or the Ninth Circuit Court that's really doing the blows against California's bad stuff. So in Massachusetts, 500, and Massachusetts is pretty populated. I don't know what the population of Massachusetts is, but effectively the gun owners in Massachusetts are certainly minority. They're also not active and they're not upset. So what is happening is that Toby's going live, and almost every single time people are calling in with questions that are either similar or pretty much the same. So that's pretty tough to deal with, I'm sure. They have to get the information out, and there's new information, but people don't have any information. So it's just a massive effort in awareness. And the anti folks there just certainly have a lot going for them. They go to, their legislator meets every 72 hours. They have a full-time legislator, and they can just do whatever they want all the time. And since it's super, what's the word, saturated with Democrats, they don't really have to do anything bipartisan or really pay attention. They can just do whatever they feel like. And at the time, right now, they feel like Massachusetts was needed to challenge the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association Supreme Court thing. So they're championing that, and they're cramming through some horrible stuff. So Massachusetts is dealing with a petition to try to stop that, which I think may effectively stop that. It's hard to say, but they are beginning that process, but they still have to do the work. Let's see. So it's been frustrating to see it happen, and I wish I could be more optimistic about the results of all the effort. The effort has to be done, but it's essentially bailing water out of the boat that's sinking or that has a hole in it. It's not repairing the hole. It's not getting you to shore. It's not getting, that kind of stuff happening. It's simply keeping the water out of the boat so that it doesn't actually sink. But it's not a lost cause, and it's certainly not over. So, as we see the tremendous effort that's being done to bail that water out, we'll see what's next. We'll see if they come together and fix that boat. A lot of times when an issue is brought to light through negative situation like this, it can easily go the other way. They can mobilize so many gun owners to say that's enough that they essentially dismantle the horrible situation that's in Massachusetts. And that would be a great win, and it's certainly an opportunity. And since we don't see anybody talking about it, it's more than frustrating to not even have that as an option. But the way that they're pushing, whenever someone pushes so hard in one direction, they're putting themselves at risk of toppling over. And with a well-executed maneuver, you could just move out of the way and let them push themselves right over. Massachusetts is in the position to be able to do that if they had the ability to do that. So let's see if that happens. That would be awesome. All right, then we had, there's the USCCA, the NRA, the shots, goals happened. So now the GOA decided to do a convention. So we've had the NSSF started the SHOT Show because there was so many conventions happening each year that it was frustrating and it was costing the industry money. So they decided, hey, let's put all the conventions in one spot and make this more efficient for the community. And that's what SHOT Show happened. And since 1980, whatever, it's been the largest event happening. So now we're seeing in 2024 the opposite. Let's chop it up and have different groups for different events for each group. So now the industry has to go to 7 events each year instead of 2, and that's better somehow. So I'm not going to jump on board and love everything that happens just because it's happening in front of me. In fact, I'll challenge shit when it's stupid. So let's take a look. We have couple of organizations. Now, I didn't put Second Amendment Foundation in here, but I'll show you how I got the numbers. So I went to Minuteman University, which is right over here. And on Minuteman, if you scroll down to the menu over here to the National Gun Owners' Rights Groups, I don't have enough room in the menu there to include everything. So if you scroll down to this one to funding, It's not a main issue, so I don't have it on the main page or anything. But this is some work that we did. I should probably date these things. Did this work a couple years ago whenever I found this resource that lets us know how much money the organizations are making. So actually, I'll just go down to Second Amendment Foundation right away and grab that link. So if we use this link and we go find out that Second Amendment Foundation, for example, brings in about $6,800,000 a year, according to their 2022 tax return. And let's not forget that Second Amendment Foundation is a sister organization to, I'm going to find it, to the what is their other one? The Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. And that's important because that organization brings in millions of dollars, and that organization pays for the gun rights policy thing. And that's what we're really talking about here. So anyway, I'm not going to be able to find all that because we're live. But essentially the NSSF, the Second Amendment Foundation isn't alone. They bring in money from the Citizens Committee, and that's in the neighborhood of a couple of million each year. But I didn't include them because the Gun Rights Policy Conference is boring as hell, and it isn't an industry event. It's a niche event for just Second Amendment advocates and policy people. So it's not really an industry event. However, there are quite a few industry events. The National Association of African American Gun Owners brings in about $588,000 per year, and they put on their national summit each year in Dallas. We've got Gun Owners America just joined the mix. They bring in about $7 million a year, just under, and they started their goals event this year in Tennessee. Then you've got the NSSF bringing in $57 million a year, and they do the SHOT Show, and that costs them a good chunk of that money goes to SHOT Show. And then we've got the NRA that does the NRA national meetings and events, or whatever it's called, and exhibits. The NRA is currently at about $211 million each year. And then we have the USCCA that does their USCCA event, except they didn't do it this year. And they bring in almost 300 million. Well, probably way more than 300 million because this number is the number of members they have multiplied by their lowest membership rate. So this would be approximately double if you went with their highest membership rate. And since I don't know how many members or at what levels, I just went with the lowest. So the USCCA conservatively makes $300 million a year, and they didn't even do their event this year. So with that in mind, what are you supposed to do as a company? Are you going to go to the Gun Owners Policy Conference? No, of course not. You're not even invited. So that's why I didn't put it in the list. But are you supposed to go to USCCA? Are you supposed to go to NRA? Are you supposed to go to SHOT Show? Are you supposed to go to the NAGA convention and now GOA? So is this a benefit for the industry and for those of us who are doing this stuff? Or is it a benefit to the people who are making money, who are shaking hands and going to these events because they're getting paid? And I'm sure the people who are setting up these booths, it's costing them tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to set up at these booths. Where's that money coming from? Like out of thin air, like Obama's paying for the prices, or is that coming out of your next gun price? So this is neat and it makes great videos, but is this better for the community? Are these events focused on anything other than industry stuff? NRA, yeah, they have the annual meetings there. It's literally the ins and outs of the NRA. Is anything happening with that? No, we got like 4 people that are paying attention to that, literally. SHOT Show, I wish. It's a huge event. It's literally the whole industry, so it's probably asking a lot for them to change course and do anything. NAGA, they're just starting out 2 years in, and they're the least amount of resources, and probably, it's hard to say. I haven't been to it yet, and there's not a lot of coverage of it, but do they have these seminars and stuff? And then goals this year, first time doing it, looks like a success from everybody's feedback. And yeah, they spent 2 full days of seminars. So here's the full 2 days of seminars. They did stream them. Why didn't this one go up? Was it that timestamp? Anyway, they did put up 2 full days. They streamed something like 10 hours, 9 hours on the first day, something like 8 hours on the second day. And they also streamed on Rumble. So they technically did a better job than anybody else, because the NRA does stream, but they only stream the meetings, and it's, well, they probably stream their NRA radio or something, but I don't pay attention to that. And the meetings are not good streams. They're okay, but they're not good. Gun Rights Policy Conference is a joke. They suck at everything, including streaming and doing anything. So theirs is not good, and it's super boring, even if you did watch it. Whenever we pirated it and put it out legit, at least competently, no one watched it because it's boring. Like, the Gun Rights Policy Conference is not made to be mainstream. Goals was what it was. It was a live stream. It was better than any other organization has ever even done or even tried, really. But they had 2 streams, one on YouTube and one on Rumble, and they were 2 different rooms with 2 different streams. So literally you couldn't watch all of Goals. There was, unless you watched it twice, it would take you 4 days to watch all of Goals, in other words, because things were happening at the same time. So I don't know if that's good or bad. That's a fire hose for sure. Some of it was garbage. There was literally whole panels that were useless and stupid. And some of it was okay. Nothing was mind-blowing, but it was also their first year. And, well, I shouldn't say that. There is another organization that put something together that's tiny, that tried to put a panel together, but their panel is homogeneous. Is that the way to say? It's all one kind of person, and it's boring. And they all have the same point of view, and they're all exploiting the community. So it's kind of shitty and lame to watch them talk. These Gold were different. They had different people on. Some of the people were horrible. There's some of their decisions, like, they need to pay attention, because they had some people on that shouldn't have been on there. But for the most part, they had a bunch of people I didn't know and a bunch of people who should have been on there. But, there's always a but. They didn't blow it out of the park, because they essentially just introduced each other and sat there. So they could definitely enhance this, and it could be the best thing going. We'll see what happens. They have all the opportunity now, because it's in their court. They've got another year to work on this, and they've got it all figured out now. So there you go. Are the national get-togethers effective? Are they worth our time? Are they worth it as a community? Like, say, SHOT Show is what it is because it consolidated a bunch of them. Are we just going to be ripe for a new consolidation of these shows or something? Or maybe times have changed and it's time to have more shows again. Who knows? All right, so now we get into gun talk. What are we doing on time? I'm blabbing pretty good today. This is stuff that isn't so much 2A, but gets into gun-related stuff. I usually put She Fires at the top here. I guess I missed this show. Is this her talking for an hour? Yeah, so I missed this one. Was she in Tennessee with this one? I don't know if DJ's still out there. I don't know if this was her Sunday show, but I definitely missed it, so I'll have to watch this one to see. But I enjoy She Fires. She does a good job of experiencing things, as her like explaining her experience, which is interesting. But then she does a better job than most of taking the camera and looking around, going in and seeing yourself in a selfie, and then seeing the items on a table are interesting for you and your friends, but they're not interesting for the rest of the world that's trying to experience the events. So I do appreciate the people that talk about the events and then show the events for those of us that aren't there, and for the internet, for the world, right, for history. People forget that what we do online right now is the little black and white photos in a shoebox that somebody's going to discover years from now. We're living it, so we think we've got it all figured out. But in reality, if our job is to be archiving the present for the future, we suck at this. And no one is encouraging anyone to be better at it. We're all just enjoying the feed, and nobody's paying attention to the results. What we're laying down as far as the archive of what's happening today. So with that in mind, Crump went on with a bunch of people and talked about their experience at Goals. No photos or anything, but at least it was some insight. Gear Report went live and had Clover on, and they talked about Goals from another perspective. And then you had Guns and Gear podcast also talking about Goals from Tony and others who were there. Again, very few pictures, but at least more insight to the event. And I'd say if you listen to Crump for like whatever this is, a half an hour, you listen to Gear Report for half an hour with Clover, and you listen to the chunks of the Gun and Gear Report, you'll get 3 separate positions, not an all-inclusive coverage of Goals by any means, but you'll get 3 unique points of view on that event. And they're maybe not the perfect 3, to show you 3 separate versions of the event, but you'll certainly see 3 different versions of the event. They're all kind of similar because they're all content creators, but and they're all people that like review stuff, so they're specific types of content creators. But I think it just didn't realize until I just was scrolling through here that is a way to see the event from 3 different angles, though. Then we'll move on to the Gun Owners Radio, which is the San Diego Gun Owners Organization's radio show. They've started a project called Lead Talks, like a play on TED Talks, that is every Monday. They have firearms instructors from the San Diego, the southern areas, from the Southern California area, and they talk about usually beginner stuff, like what kind of gun to buy, how to carry a gun, and stuff like that. Pretty interesting, though, and fun to watch. A great organization and doing interesting things to move the ball, change that Overton window to normalize guns. This is Serbu, right? Mark Serbu posted this about the Reising. People don't know about this gun. It's like a gun that didn't. It's like it was the time frame of the Thompson, but this one lost to the Thompson, and it's just another full auto carbine that every once in a while people discover it. It uses, does it use 1911 mags? Maybe not. Maybe it uses Thompson mags, but it uses stick magazines, and it was designed for the Marines, and they didn't like it, so nobody bought it. Nobody used it. But it's an interesting little machine gun, submachine gun, I guess. If you haven't seen one before, check out that channel. He's talking about one. All right, now we talk about the radio shows that happened this week, and there used to be a bunch. That's why this is a section of the show. And now there's only 2, but Toby does a bunch of shows, so I keep it in here. But essentially, I listen to Cape Gun Works. Toby does a show on Tuesday, he does a show on Wednesday, and then he does a show on Sundays, in addition to some special events that he's been doing now because of the situation in Massachusetts. But those are all worth listening to. Toby does a great job of just answering questions, having an effective conversation with the live, what do you call it, the live audience, I guess. And he just does a great job of it. And he's also fairly knowledgeable about guns and stuff. He's been a gun shop owner for a number of years and a gun owner his whole life. And, with the perspective of being in Massachusetts, it's a pretty interesting show. And he's probably the only one getting the word out on Massachusetts that isn't trying to just milk the situation for all it's worth. He's trying to end the situation. And then we talk about San Diego Gun Owners, the Gun Owners radio show that happens on Sunday. Now, this will happen right in the middle of, it starts right in the middle of She Fires, so you have to watch 2 at the same time or choose one. But great show. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours, I guess. They usually have some connection issues. I don't know why, but aside from that, great show to listen to. All right, now we'll move on to gun calendars. I guess we have a little time. Guncalendars.com, another project of ours from the olden days. Thanks to the Patreons, we're able to update this and keep it going all the time. And as you see, I don't have the fastest servers in the world, but we do have a calendar here. There's nothing to buy or anything. It's just a list of all kinds of interesting dates, anniversaries, upcoming events, and so forth. I need to put the Massachusetts rally in here for today. But tomorrow, at least as of the recording of this, the Sunday the 25th, will be the anniversary of Auto Ordnance, that company being founded in 1916. They made the Thompson, and later on they made some other guns. But Now they're owned by Car Arms, I believe. Let's see, coming up later this week, August 29th, is the Marine Corps Reserve's birthday. And if I did that right, they'll be 103 years old. The same day is the day that Skynet became self-aware, August 29th, 1997 at 2:14 a.m. Sarah Connor named this day as the day Skynet became self-aware. All right, then we've got on the 31st of this month, the last day of the month, we have the anniversary of Ken Hackathorn being born. People that know Ken know what that's all about, and if you don't, maybe that's something you could look up. He's a firearms instructor. Here's a hint. We also have the anniversary of the Sullivan Law, which is essentially, I wrote in here the first CCW law. It's the first big CCW law that is consequential at a national level, but there's been lots of gun control laws before that, it turns out, that were essentially focused on minorities, so that blacks and Indians couldn't have firearms. But the Sullivan Law was the 1911 law in New York, which essentially said you can't carry guns in New York, and that became the beginning of all gun control that we know today. Let's see, just knock my mic out of commission or not. Then we have on September 1st, the first day of the month is often the day of the month that stuff gets initiated or enacted. So the first could be some pretty crowded days. The 1st of July, for example, is a massively crowded day as far as events in the calendar. But the one for September, the 1st of September, is not that big a deal. In 1995, Texas began issuing CCW permits. So everybody thinks Texas is being free and gun friendly and all that, but they were so far behind the ball on pretty much everything concealed carry and open carry. I think open carry is still an issue in Texas, right? So they didn't get CCWs even until 1995, which wasn't first to the game, but it wasn't last, but it wasn't first. And anyway, always like to put those in there though, so that people don't forget that where we are today isn't just a given. It's a result of a lot of hard work and effort over years sometimes. Let's see, coming up on the 2nd, which will be every second matters, of course. The 2nd of September, we've got the anniversary of the founder of Trijicon passing away back in 2003. We have the anniversary of Hiram Percy Maxim. So there's 3 Maxims, and Hiram Percy Maxim is the guy who's the son of Hiram Maxim. Hiram, what's the other Maxim? It's not Percy though, but the other Maxim is the machine gun. Hiram Percy Maxim is his son, and he's the suppressor. He's also ham radio, and he's also something else like something with movies. He was an inventor. He did a lot of stuff. I guess it's also Labor Day. It looks like it's the anniversary of Nebraska constitutional carry. That was a year or two ago, right? They don't have the year in here. Then we have the anniversary of the Pittman-Robertson Federal Aid and Wildlife Restoration Act from 1937. And that's where we get the excise tax on firearms. That's been since 1937. Then we've got the 4th of September is the anniversary of Weatherby being born. So Roy Weatherby, into hunting rifles and bolt actions and some ammunition, you'll understand that name. DJ out there still. Let's see. And then we have, there he is, Hiram Burden. Somebody else. The Burdan. Yeah, Hiram Burdan. The primer guy, he was born back in 1824, coming up on the 6th of September. And then we have a couple of anniversaries of other inventors. Ludwig Vorgmuller, inventor of the Setme. He was born back in 1912, coming up next week. And then the passing of Uzi Gal, who is the guy that invented the Uzi. Guess what? All right, well, so that's some of the stuff that's coming up in September, and that's the kind of stuff we post over on gun calendars. The goal here, though, is to have all the rallies, have all the industry events, so that people know what's going on. I put them in a list form like this so people can keep track of stuff. And then we've got the calendar on the main page. If you know something that should be in the calendar, let us know. We're the ones who put it in there or not. And if something shouldn't be in there, let us know. I'll take some advice. Usually I'm going to leave stuff in there, but feel free to give us some feedback on that. All right, and then we get to the military interview shows. It's probably a good spot for me to drink a guzzle of water here, so I'm going to throw another quick commercial up. And that's 6:05 Eastern. She's on at like 3 o'clock out here. So She Fires was on Sunday. That's what the commercial was talking about. So then we got our military interview shows. I've been watching this Borderland channel. They have a couple of different shows that are worth watching. All of them have horrible editing. Like, they suck. I hope this isn't the way editing is going to happen in the future. Can't say enough how much I do not like their editing. It's super frustrating to watch, but they're the only ones focusing on this stuff. So this one was interesting, talking about trafficking across borders. And at this point, people are numb to that, while people are exploited fucking daily. It's freaking messed up. We've gotten to a point where people being exploited we're numb to it. We don't even pay attention to it when it comes up in the news. It's become a tabloid thing, a controversial news topic, instead of the actual what it is, people being abused systematically. And the selectiveness of the press is, what's the word, right? Like, it's evident, I guess, the selectiveness of the press, when you have to find people that do horrible editing. He's a nice guy. I'm sure this Rocco is a cool dude, but the people that edit his shit, like, need to go back to editing school. Like, they need to watch their final product and go, oh, this is horrible. We should edit differently. But they're the only ones. When we have alternative media being the only ones to focus on these issues, where are we at? Not a dire. It's not like the sky's falling, but it's an opportunity to add something to the mix that could be ultimately successful, both for the community and your pocketbook. Just throwing that out there. Then we get about halfway through this. No, I'm not. I'm about a third of the way through this, I guess. It's been okay. This is just some guy who's a police officer in San Diego. They have 40 canines in San Diego, the largest canine force in the United States, it sounds like. So anyway, just started talking to this guy. He's a big fan of Jocko. So nowadays I put a big question mark in there, anything with Jocko in it. But it's been interesting to listen to so far. Then I just got done listening to this. I actually listened to it twice. So there's a lot of this going around about stolen valor and the vice president candidate with Harris, and he's the governor of Minnesota, and he's a douchebag. And people who don't give a shit are going to say, "Oh, it don't matter." And then people who either had issues or know people that died think it's a big deal. And you can't casually claim a bunch of shit that you never did and casually get away with it. Period. I mean, I guess some people don't give a shit about this stuff, but seeing this is probably one of the better focuses on it, because Mike Glover is a command sergeant, or he's a sergeant major. I don't know if he's a command sergeant major, but he's an E8 or 9, and this guy claims to be an E9. So you're not going to get too many points of view publicly except for the guy who was in his own unit who called the guy a coward and loser. But aside from the guy who knows him and called him a coward and a loser, you're not going to get too many people at the rank of E9 who are, voicing public opinion, who are going to chime in on this. I guess that's it. So that's worth listening to. It's like a minute long. It's 15 minutes long. It's not very long to listen to. But essentially, it just puts to rest the concept of if that guy was just minding his business and the world happened, or as an E8, you actually know what the hell's going on in the military and you make decisions and you have ability that other people don't. With that, we'll end it and say thanks for joining us. We did it right around an hour. So yeah, I did this many hours later than normal, and we're not blaming Gizzard for this. It was his show that I fell asleep to. It's not his fault that he made a show that was made easy for me to fall asleep to, but I did fall asleep. But we did get this one in. At least I didn't do it on Saturday, so we did get it in kind of overnight here. And thanks to the people that are joining us live. Let's take a quick look. How many people are joining on the X? About half the people are watching on X, not making any comments. But a bunch of people on the YouTube did make a bunch of comments. So thanks again for joining in, being part of the show. And we'll be back tomorrow with Tony, chatting about probably goals and his experience at that, and with the 2A for E event that he had, another sold out one on Thursday. And we might even answer some gun questions. So if you got some gun questions, you can head over to askgunquestions.com, ask away. And every once in a while on Saturdays, Tony and I get around to answering those questions for you. And I think that's about it. Thanks again to those who participated tonight. If you want to be part of this show in the future, you're allowed to comment on the YouTube videos. Go over to Substack, join up. We actually have a paid member over at Substack. So thank you to the people that pay to check out the blog over there. And if you're listening as a podcast, again, next time you're looking at your iHeartRadio or your iTunes or your Stitcher or Spotify or whatever it is, we ask you to remember to give us a thumb up, or a comment would be great. And do the same for the other podcasts that you value. We really, as podcasts, we get very little feedback over there. So that's the most valuable feedback we can get is from the podcast platforms. So we really do appreciate that feedback. Or if you're over here on the YouTubes or on the X, leave us some comments. DJ's dropping a link to the show, to the store. I should probably do that more often. Thanks for that. We'll play another quick commercial for the store, and we'll see you all next time.
Sorry to bother you, Ripley, but do you happen to know where I might find help designing a logo?
That's easy. Just head over to gearwebsites.com and they can help you out. While you're there, why not check out all the wonderful 2A-related items for sale? Jimmy, put that down.
Gearwebsites.com.
Shit. Ninja? Ninja! Ninja!
It's 11:59 at